From the National Weather Service confirming not one but two tornadoes, two separate tornadoes, the Weather Service says, blast through here. The second one hitting just a couple of miles east of the first one. Now to that new video. I want you to see this. I've never seen anything like it, to be honest with you. Watch it because as the witness says, you can actually see the eye of what he calls a tornado. Watch.
Oh, we having a whole tornado. Look what happened. Nigga, the trampoline and wrap that. Oh, look at her.
New dramatic video of the tornado and the debris blasting through Compton and Carson.
It looked like the eye of the tornado.
You could see it spinning.
Yes, it was, but it wasn't going this away. It was going this away.
A spinning funnel cloud, he says, that sends this trampoline airborne. Even if you didn't see it, you sure heard it.
It was real loud. It was loud. It sounded like a train or something. It was just too much going on right then, and the wind was blowing so hard.
Oh, look at the flying. Oh, look at that. Oh, more dramatic video. They can't believe it's a tornado, but the damage left behind shows the dirty work of a twister. Sections of the roof now down on the ground. This big tree taken down right from its roots. Winds here clocked around 75 miles per hour. The National Weather Service calling it a weak EF0 tornado that stayed on the ground for a short time, but long enough to leave many here in shock.
Man, it was shocking. It was amazing, actually. You know, just to be in California and you see a tornado.
This industrial area along Avalon Boulevard, just north of the 91 freeway, takes a direct hit. Parts of the roof from at least two large commercial buildings rip right off, all in the crosshairs of the tornado.
And then ended up here at our facility, twisting up a couple of the metals. And then, twister. Who would imagine, right?
Hard to imagine, but the damage is clear. Flying debris smashing out the windows on this car and leaving gaping holes in the roofs of several buildings, all marking the path of this tornado.
It was so shocking in the city of Compton for a tornado to be here. It was pretty cool.
Now you're looking live. Cool, she says, damaging here. This is one of the commercial buildings. Parts of its roof ripped right off. They've been using the plywood there and some plastic covering up those big gaping holes, protecting it from more rain. I can also tell you SoCal Edison crews have been working the last couple of hours. Last check, they think they have all the power back on in this area. But how about that video, huh? What he calls the eye of the tornado spinning this way before it actually came down and hit the ground. For now, we're live here in Carson. Back to both of you we go.
Oh, hey, how's...
What's up, fam? Welcome to the Original Man YouTube channel. And that was actually a tornado that touched down in Compton, California. Now, when most people think of tornadoes, what states do you usually think of? Usually Texas comes to mind, Oklahoma, Kansas City, Kansas City, Missouri, Iowa, Nebraska, which is known as Tornado Alley. So, you know, they don't really think, a lot of people don't think California can get tornadoes when actually tornadoes can hit any state. Now there was one years ago, historically in California, that was this was a F2, so it was pretty big for California, for the West Coast. It was a pretty big tornado. It was a F2, 1983. I probably played some footage of that, but I trip out on some of these people. You tell them, yo, California gets tornadoes, and you know, a lot of times, you know, you get the clowning and people say, man, that's a dust devil. That ain't a tornado, that's a dust devil. First of all, dust devils only happen on clear, hot days. Trust me, I know. I live out here near the desert, so I've seen plenty of them. Usually dust devils happen on hot, warm days, breezy days. That's when you see a dust devil. The brother said that the eye of the tornado, well, that's the rotation. That's what that is. That's two different air masses colliding together, and that's what you get. You get the rotation. You know, cold air comes in and mixes with warmer air, and that's where you get those big storms and those tornadoes, which is very known in the Midwest and down south. Not so often in California, but it's not that unusual to hear of California getting a tornado, because California gets tornadoes. What is unusual, and I will say this, is what is unusual. Yeah, what is unusual, family, is California having tornadoes back to back. Now that is unusual. There was 2 tornadoes that hit in California and around the LA area the same day. One in Carson, California, one in Compton, California. That is very unusual. That has never happened. Never that all the years that I've lived out here, I've never witnessed that happening. But we do get tornadoes occasionally out here in California. I know that's hard to believe to a lot of people, but yeah, it happens. But what is unusual, as I said before, is having them back to back, 4 tornadoes in a few months. Just a couple months, 4 tornadoes back to back in California. That shit is unusual. You know, we may have one here every other year, maybe once a year, maybe, yeah, you know. In Northern California, they get more than Southern California. Central Valley, California, they get more. They call that the Tornado Alley of California. But very unusual to get tornadoes back to back like that in California. That's the unusual part for me. That's kind of like, whoa, okay. And some people want to say, well, maybe it's weather modification. Maybe they're controlling the weather. Well, I don't know. I can't really say that. And you know, I'm a big believer in weather modification and the powers that be controlling the weather. Yeah, that absolutely does happen. These people have the technology to control weather fronts, control hurricanes, steer hurricanes, weaken them, strengthen them. They got the technology to do all that. But are they doing it with this? It's kind of hard to say. I really don't have the answer for that. But so I'm gonna play this one video. Now this is like 40 years ago, 1983. This was a pretty big tornado. This was a F2. The other ones were F0s. This was a F2. That's pretty big. F2 is a pretty nice size, pretty strong tornado. The one in Montebello was a F1. That just happened like maybe a month and a half ago. So, but I'm gonna go ahead and play this historic 1983 F2 tornado that hit Los Angeles that caused a lot of damage. I mean, you would think you was looking at the Midwest, but we're gonna hop into it right now.
But hold on a second, I gotta look this one up.
This was a real tornado strike that you would see somewhere in Tornado Alley in the Central and Southern Plains.
when I looked at this and I started to see the pictures of the damage and stuff, this was a legitimate tornado in Los Angeles.
It was a day of massive cleanup in South Central Los Angeles as the area along Broadway tried to get back to normal.
Well, the thing I remember the most about the 1983 tornado in Los Angeles was what an anomaly it was. When we saw the damage for this, it's not like in 1983 we had the constant video feeds back to the station, but when the story aired, we thought, wow, this is an historic event in Southern California because, again, especially with our mild weather, are not built to withstand 180-mile-an-hour circular winds.
So it's actually funny. It's not as rare as you might think. A tornado of this kind of strength is rare. But LA County, since about 1950, I think we've had about 4 or 5 of these of that kind of strength. But I think this is probably very unique in where it was placed.
We know what to do for an earthquake or the Santa Ana winds, but we don't know how to build our homes to withstand tornadoes. We don't know what to do if the tornado alarm goes off. This totally caught us by surprise.
People who were here when the tornado struck say they've never seen anything like it.
I'll be 83 years old. My next birthday. I've never been in nothing like this.
My boy flew in the air.
Flew in the air because of the tornado?
Yeah, it pulled him, and he hit the bus, and he got hurt.
It sucked him out of the room?
Yeah.
So for this tornado itself, what we kind of needed was, so you need rotation in the atmosphere, and you need some sort of storm to be able to lift some of that rotation. So in our case, we ended up with surface winds that were kind of up out of the south, but above it, up in the upper atmosphere, we had winds pretty much coming out of the west. And so that creates this natural rotation through the atmosphere, and that's kind of what the storms were tapping into that day. And I believe, if I remember correctly, it was only about 1/3 of a mile wide, so relatively small, but that's kind of what we would expect for a small tornado of this kind of damage. But regardless, they said about 113-mile-an-hour winds, which was at the time an F2 tornado. The most important thing, they didn't think tornadoes were possible in LA around that time.
My first day on the air was Christmas Eve 1982, and in the 35 years I've been here, I've never seen tornado activity like that. And there was a lot of amazing damage up and down that one thoroughfare. The one difference between observing an event like that now and observing it back then was we didn't have social media. There wasn't the instantaneous news feed where you saw it happen, and you may have seen it coming in your neighborhood.
Whoa, I mean, just look at the damage, man. If you look at that, I mean, you would think it was like Oklahoma or somewhere. I mean, that's crazy. This happened in 1983. I was just a little kid when this happened, youngster.
This was all edited and packaged, and then we watched it on the 5 and 6 o'clock news and maybe the 11 o'clock news, and so it was. We're looking at it in hindsight. It would be really interesting to see how people reacted to that now in the incredible video we would have gotten.
It was unique because it went through LA. That's pretty much the unique thing for this. The National Weather Service itself said that it was kind of weird to them because it seemed detached from where some of the deepest clouds were.
And it really took us by surprise. And I think even at the time we knew that this was going to be a fairly historic event because no one that I had worked with had ever seen one of these before in an area like that to the extent that it wreaked havoc.
Epidemic Sound is basically a royalty-free soundtrack company. So it's where I go to when I...
Yeah, fam. So that happened like 40 years ago. I was in elementary school when that happened. So that was a F2. So like I said, it's not that unusual. It's not. What is unusual is the amount that we had back to back, which is like crazy. Like, is this even California? You know what I mean? But I guess the right conditions that was going on during that time the conditions were right. So it ended up forming what we know as a tornado. Real talk. And here it shows you how they start, how they are created, which is crazy. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Is it global warming? I don't believe in global warming. I think that's a scam. I'm sure you guys know my thoughts on that. Some of you may not, but I don't go along with that BS. I don't believe in that. You know, global warming or climate change. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. Climate change, which is, to me, is a scam. You know, you're talking about climate change and trying to help the environment and the climate change, but yet, you know, you still spraying the atmosphere, spraying the skies. I mean, come on now, make it make sense. But hit me up in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Do you think these were actual tornadoes? Or do you think they just some whirlwind or small dust devils, like, you know, I've heard some people try to say, which is clearly a lack of knowledge in that area. So let me know what you think, family. Coming at you from the West Coast. I'm out. Peace.